NBC 10 breaking news.
Right now at 5 o'clock, we're tracking severe storms that are producing tornado warnings, also flash flooding in our area. In fact, our entire area is under a tornado watch right now, but we've already seen a warning in Chester County earlier this afternoon. That's expired, but reports of water rescues in Berks and Montgomery counties that we're hearing about as well.
The heavy rain is creating ponding and flash flooding on roads, including here along 76 near 202 in King of Prussia. Storm Force 10 was out in the elements. A lot of brake lights, also drivers taking it easy because you could run into that water, and there are also reports of downed trees on major roads. Take a look at the damage from the storms on the other side of the state. This is near Pittsburgh. Cherry City fire rescue crews pulled more than 3 dozen kids off of a school bus. It got stuck, as you can see, in the floodwaters, and you can see the water reached above the bus tires.
Rain, it's coming down over Philadelphia. I want to take a live look at I-95 in South Philadelphia. You see all that traffic there moving pretty slowly on the wet roads. These storms, they're going to be with us for a while. This is exactly what our first alert meteorologists had been predicting for us. So stay right here. Stay with NBC 10. We are here for you. We have the information to keep you prepared. Thank you for joining us here at 5 o'clock. I'm Jim Rosenfield.
And I'm Tracy Davidson. Our first alert weather team has been warning you for days about these storms and the impact they could have on our region. Our team of reporters and photographers is spread out across all 3 states, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, keeping an eye on flood-prone communities and checking in with neighborhoods already hit hard by a summer of severe weather. First alert meteorologist Brittany Shipp and Steve Sosna, they are tracking where the storms are right now and what is still to come so that you're prepared.
This is a real mess because we have a severe thunderstorm warning over top of a flash flood warning with a tornado warning on top of that in the same area. We told you today was going to be a crazy weather day. This is what we're talking about. Multiple dangerous and potentially life-threatening threats at play right now at 5:28 on this Wednesday evening. The amount of rain that's falling out of these storms is 2, 3, maybe even 3.5 inches of rain in an hour. To give you an idea, in our suburbs, it takes 1 inch of rain in 3 hours to cause flooding.
And Brittany, I can tell you that the residents out here were listening, they were watching, they were in their basements. The power of Mother Nature and the tornado that ripped through here appears to have come right through this path, but this is the worst. This is the worst destruction that I've ever seen from storm damage and tornadoes in South Jersey. It's hard to even tell what you're looking at, Britt. Just the home crumbled on top of itself. To the right here, there's a door. It appears there's a whole room. Maybe the laundry room is here to the right. Against the car is the garage wall. We're seeing part of the swing set that is in the front yard. If you look back here in the debris field, there's a silver car that appears to have been pushed back out of the driveway into the yard. So I want you to see in the distance the comparison. The home over here to the left is standing and fine, and this home is completely destroyed.
This is heavy rain. I mean, take a look at this. It's picking up here again too. We're talking about heavy rain. Even a little earlier, it was car wash rain. It was like as heavy as if you were taking your car through a car wash where you really did need to stop and pull over, maybe go into a Wawa and get under the cover, where the gas pumps are and stuff, because it is that dangerous. I'm sitting here looking at this guy like you're looking at this person, and I think you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, Jim, and everybody watching at home.
Don't go through that.
Don't do it. Please don't go through it. That is a bad move. You see, like, there's white caps. That's what we're looking at here. And, folks, that's what we're asking you. Just, nothing on this side of the road could be that important. Even if it's home, just go back, get to higher ground, wait this thing out a little bit. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And we have Steve and Brittany and everybody back there, telling us how it's going to go. Just pay attention to what they're saying. We're going to get through this. But driving through this water is not a good idea. And now there's a stack of cars, which of course there's peer pressure, which again, I'm going to wave this guy and just tell him not to do this. No, bad idea.
You can see the volume of water. You can see how swiftly it's moving. And the headlights from that car are enabling us to see it so clearly. What you were describing, Tim, this is a situation you do not want to move through with a car.
And the cars following behind you. We know it only takes 12
water.
inches of moving water to lift a vehicle, and 6 inches of fast-moving water can knock an adult over. And we see those cars going through, which we never advise, because you do not know how deep that water is.
NBC 10 breaking news. Tonight, widespread damage. The onslaught from Mother Nature spawned multiple possible tornadoes, while flash floods inundated neighborhoods.
Go in the basement.
The monster storm system leaves a path of destruction across the Delaware Valley.
Oh my God.
The basement saved your life.
Homes ripped apart, power lines knocked out, and trees toppled.
From the suburbs to the city to South Jersey. The other first alert concern, flooding and the problems overnight. Roads washed away, streets flooded. Tonight, count on the NBC 10 First Alert team to get you through this severe weather outbreak. Good evening. You're watching NBC 10 News at 11. I'm Jacqueline London.
And I'm Jim Rosenfield. So far, we have one confirmed tornado here in Mullica Hill, Gloucester County. One of the 16 warnings, though, from the National Weather Service today. And take a look at this. An apparent tornado with a twin funnel cloud from iRevive Barbershop on Sunset Road in Burlington Township today brought us to 51 tornado warnings for our area this year, smashing the previous record of 36, and we are not in the clear yet. There are still flash flood emergencies and warnings in effect across our area for the next several hours. We'll have more on that in a minute, but this right here is a look at water rescues underway at the Village Green Apartments in Hatboro, Montgomery County.
That threat and the damage left behind is spread across our entire area, from the Pennsylvania suburbs to the city to South Jersey. That's why NBC 10 has a team out tonight surveying damage, monitoring flooded roads, and tracking what's coming next. We begin tonight in arguably the hardest hit area, Mullica Hill, Gloucester County, where more than a dozen homes have been destroyed. Neighbors there report seeing a massive tornado move across the street near Route 77. NBC 10's Sydney Long was the first to that neighborhood. And Sydney, a truly heartbreaking scene as the level of destruction there is just monumental.
Well, Jackie, good evening. In 19 years, I have never seen destruction and devastation quite this big. Just take a look at the home you can see here behind me. It really is catastrophic and a miracle that lives were not lost. We've learned that a family of 5, including 3 young children, were in fact home when what they call a massive tornado ripped through their neighborhood. They said they saw it coming. Residents were glued to news on their phones and ran downstairs saying that their basements saved their life.
Look at that tornado!
Residents called it a monster tornado and captured this video on their cell phones.
On the phones, the alert for the weather alert for tornadoes, a warning.
Troy Bonenberg and his family ran to their basement.
I had the radio on. I was sitting back, relaxed. I'm trying to chill out the children. Everything's cool. And next thing you know, I seen the dog's ears.
Dozens of residents did the same, hiding under their basement steps as the strength of Mother Nature ripped nearly a dozen homes apart.
I turned off the radio and just heard everything there, like the roof, everything collapsing, so we all jumped under the steps.
The wrath, according to police, was around 6:20. It left homes along Josephine Lane leveled. Others look like a dollhouse, leaving entire rooms exposed.
The tornado came right through here.
There are roofs torn off, twisted swing sets. Cars had the windows sucked out.
We heard the alert come on the news. We didn't think anything was going to happen. Then all of a sudden you hear the rumbling. You look outside, and it's like everybody get your butts in the basement.
We were on the air when firemen marked homes with a green X.
It's been searched.
The green X means it's been searched?
Yes.
Was anyone hurt?
Not that we know of.
Lieutenant, have you ever seen anything like this?
Not in Mullica Hill.
Just got done telling my son, who was a little worried, that tornadoes, we don't get tornadoes. And then 5 minutes later, this happens.
Like, I haven't cried in like 20 years, and once I seen our house totally destroyed, and I started running over there.
Jeff Oshel broke down learning that a family of 5 whose home crashed down on them were all okay.
3 small children, but everybody's fine.
Everybody's physically okay. Just a couple minutes later, the neighbors from next door came running over, so we heard the people coming in.
Natalie Bonenberg is just 12.
Everyone's going to make sure everything's going to be way okay. Thank you. We're glad you're all right.
We take a look. That was the Manayunk sign. I'm sorry, that just collapsed into this river that's on Main Street. I wish we had just showed you what it looked like before. It says, welcome to Manayunk. And yeah, welcome to Manayunk this morning. 4 o'clock, the Schuylkill River has overflowed. All of that rain north of the city, of course, has to drain out. That's what's happening here in Manayunk. The Schuylkill River overflowing its banks. We are approaching major flood stage. I want to give you a sense of where we are right now. Let's zoom out at the water's edge. This is Schurz Lane at Main Street. It's typically the area that does flood a lot during storms, but neighbors are saying they've never seen it like this. Take a look over here, actually. Pizzeria L'Angelo. This is one of the restaurants on Main Street, completely flooded out here in their cafe. The tables and more underwater. We're seeing debris floating down this river of Main Street as well. I want to show you some video of the damage, these floodwaters along the already saturated Schuylkill that was pretty high before the storm came through. Now the remnants of Ida dumping so much water, inches of rain. We're seeing similar flooding upriver in Conshohocken along the Schuylkill River bike trail. Places like Norristown could also see high water. And here in the city, the water levels could reach historic levels. The previous big storms for Manayunk were Irene in 2011, Floyd in 99, and neighbors we're talking to say it looks just as bad, if not worse.
This is the highest I've ever seen as far as, during a hurricane season or any storm for that matter. So, yeah, this is, it looks like it's getting higher at by the minute too. Yeah. This is the lowest point right here, as far as on Main Street. So, I mean, this is where, this is the one area that gets hit the worst right here, so.
And back here live, this is inside of the kitchen of that pizza restaurant, Pizzeria L'Angelo, and you can see the ovens, all of their equipment and more under multiple feet of water. And then I'll pan over here, you can see this is the courtyard. I'm gonna guess at least 4 feet of water, if not more, rushing down Main Street.
To really get a better perspective of what this means for the area, we launched Skyforce 10 to give you a picture of this morning's historic flooding and why you have got to stay home if you can today.
It's the Vine Street Expressway right here. NBC 10's Mitch Blocker is live in Skyforce 10, in fact, in Center City with a bird's eye view of what's happening. Mitch, so far you've seen people wading out to cars, people trying to drive through the waters, which is not advisable. What are you seeing now?
Now, Keith, stay off the roads if you can. You are looking at the Schuylkill River draining onto the Vine Street Expressway. You can see this flood that is completely closed down the Vine. This goes all the way to Broad Street, and you're looking at, that's 22nd Street, going off to Benjamin Franklin Parkway. And if we can pan down, you can trace that flow of water back to the river just to get a perspective of how much flooding we're seeing. You can see the traffic backed up, and then you get to 76, which is a total mess, especially when you get under 30th Street Station, where there is standing water. Why PennDOT has not closed this part of the highway yet is unclear.
We're going to talk to Mitch Blocker, though. He's live on board Skyforce 10. You can see the scope of just how high the water is by how high it's getting on that SUV. Mitch, what have you seen so far?
Well, Keith and Lucy, we're seeing a ramp up of these boat crews, these rescue crews from Montgomery County. There have been 2 out here for about an hour, going door to door, handing life vests into mainly second-story windows because the first floors of these homes are inaccessible and are flatly dangerous. You can see the depth of the water based on a hood of a car is all that is poking above the surface. Occasionally, you're going to see debris floating by.
But here's the thing, whenever you have extreme weather events like this, you do expect to see flooding around the suburbs, right? But you don't expect to see this amount of flooding here in Center City. So there's just shock here. Neighbors here on Arch and 22nd who live along this area are shocked. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars submerged there.
Yeah, nearly a dozen homes were totaled by this tornado, and Governor Murphy actually walking around talking to people, taking a look at this destruction. But I mean, just take a second to really take it all in. This was a miracle that nobody here was seriously injured, and that's a lot of what neighbors here have been saying time and time again. Now, we were talking, your family lives in this home that we're looking at right now on our camera. Tell me who lives there and how they're doing.
My daughter-in-law and son-in-law and my 2 granddaughters and baby number 3 on the way.
On the way, and the baby's doing fine?
Yes.
I know they were in the hospital.
Yes, they checked her out at the hospital, and the baby is good, strong heartbeat.
And I can tell you're pretty shaken up. Looking at this, what's going through your mind right now?
Just a whole bunch of memories.
Mitch, what neighborhood is this that you're over now? We all presumed that it was over just 1 or 2 neighborhoods, but you keep showing new pictures.
Yeah, the more we fly, the more we discover. This is another home completely leveled. I have no idea whether it was the same storm, but I mean, we're a few miles from the initial neighborhood that we started with, so it certainly could be. Obviously, the path of destruction was incredible, and not only the power, but the distance it traveled. And I hope that you can really appreciate that from the sky, because you know, I know you're just seeing the pictures that we're able to send back, but just looking around out the windows of the helicopter, there is damage almost everywhere.
So I moved locations from the last time. This is the 676. Yeah, we're on the on-ramp here to the 676 on the Vine here, but this is the on-ramp, so it's across the street from where I was right now. And look at this right here. It just, again, it takes your breath away when you look at these images and how high the water is. Look at that. You've got trees there in the background, and if my photographer here could pan over here to the right, you've got the sign there that's obviously submerged. And here's the thing. When you have flooding in pockets like this across the city, you think, okay, well, this is not a really big area, but a lot of people are affected because it's such a densely packed area. Ergo, you've got this apartment complex right here, the Parktown Apartments, 941 units here. Virtually every person here, every resident in here being told to evacuate right now. We might get some pictures here and see people with suitcases. They've been walking along this area for the past hour or so because they got the alert on their phone telling them to evacuate. We know that the Red Cross is also going to come to this area and help out all of the people here who live along this area. And yes, that group right there, they spoke to us just a short time ago, and they told us that they're being evacuated. As a matter of fact, you could see some of their luggage right here, and they're hoping to be back in just a couple of days.
You heard Mitch say it looks better from his vantage point. Trust me, you should have seen what this street looked like just a few hours ago. I did a Facebook Live from here, and you couldn't even see down here on Prospect Avenue near Washington Lane. Take a look. Cars are just now starting to be able to come down from the edge of that street there, heading east towards the North Hills section of the township. But you look at all of the branches, the debris out here. If you can see over next to this house here, Wayne is walking around here helping me give you a vantage point. Look at that tree that toppled over. And everywhere you look, when you head north on Washington Lane, you can see how each tree is broken there. It is every single tree on the street. At one point, debris piled so high, you couldn't even see houses.
Tim, you've been covering Wilmington and all of Delaware for years. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Nope, not even close. I mean, really, honestly, like I keep racking my brain going, I've seen some flooding. I've seen the Brandywine sort of come up a little bit, but nothing like this. Right now, the Brandywine Zoo has no parking lot. Right now, the Rose Garden up the hill by Monkey Hill, for those of you who know the area, the Rose Garden there, it's one of my favorite places in Wilmington. The water's right up to the roses, and of course, you know, that's probably about 15 feet above the surface of the Brandywine normally. Now, if we pan over here, you can see, I want to show you where the water was a little while ago. See this lot over here with all those recycling bins? The water was up into there. Now, if that's your business, right, and if that's where you keep your bins, that was probably frustrating to have the water up that high, but now imagine it's your house.
I was laying in bed and I was thinking about the people in New Orleans and thinking, what is it like to lose everything?
Well, Carolyn hasn't lost everything, but this morning she was forced to face that possibility. She lives in Rockland Mills and knows the Brandywine does come up a bit near her house. Very early this morning, it came up faster and higher than ever before.
They were all with the guys, the canoes were there, and they said, get out, you got a minute. And they pulled us out.
It's no surprise the Brandywine looked like this in Delaware, because it looked like this upstream in Chadds Ford. The Brandywine River Museum now closed until further notice. Small businesses along Route 1 with a ton of cleanup to do. And that surge of water made it into the city of Wilmington, and it got dangerous quickly.
For the city of Wilmington, we had almost over 200 residents that we did evacuate.
The dogs and cats not counted in that total, but this National Guardsman was not going to leave kittens behind today. All day long, boats left Northeast Boulevard at Vanderver Avenue. It was more like a marina than an intersection. Lots of people with lots of repairs and cleanup ahead.
You got damage, water damage in these homes. You got folks that are going to be out for hopefully not too long a period of time. We've got social services providing assistance for them as they shelter.
Speaking of shelters, downtown, Hicks Anderson Community Center, uptown, 38th and Market, the Powell Center. Those are your shelters in Wilmington. And you can see downtown Wilmington sits a lot higher than the place we are right now, which is the Northeast, the East Side, Southbridge. These areas sit very low. tough time for those people. That's the people I'm thinking about right now, thinking of my peeps in these neighborhoods, because this is where they're really going to have a lot of cleanup tonight. We're live in Wilmington. Tim Furlong, NBC 10 News.
And let's take a live look at I-676 from two angles. The water is receding, but work isn't over. NBC 10's Aaron Baskerville is joining us live near the Vine Street Expressway tonight. Aaron, a holiday weekend made in America. A lot of traffic is heading to that partially closed highway.
Ooh-wee, right, Jackie, Jim? Oh boy, you better have a backup plan if you're trying to maneuver around the city. All sorts of road closures. Of course, you have this mess you have to deal with 676. The work continues. You can see over here crews still out here, heavy equipment. They're going to have to get rid of all of this mud, but of course, the water. That's the main concern. If you take a look at that speed limit sign, you can tell that progress is being made right now. When we were out here a couple of hours ago, you couldn't even see the 50. Now you can see it. Like I said before, you better be flexible out here tomorrow. How crazy has it been just trying to maneuver around the city and down?
Extremely horrible. I actually was in it the night it happened.
A welcome sight for drivers maneuvering through Center City tonight. Eastbound 676 starting at Broad Street is back open.
It's been awful. There's people backed up everywhere, road closures. It's awful.
Just down the road, the heavy lifting continued near 22nd and Winter. Crews waded knee-deep and machines pumped out thousands of gallons of water. After the water is gone, they have to sweep away the mud and clean the inlets. We're told crews will then check to make sure everything is safe.
And then an inspection of the actual infrastructure itself, from the pipes underground to the actual roadway, to see what more needs to be done.
The view from Skyforce 10 shows how the water is sent back to the Schuylkill River. The whole operation brought out folks like John Mellett, taking photos and sharing his own traffic nightmares.
It's been terrible. I drove from Manioc to Fairmount last night. It took me an hour and 10 minutes. I took the wrong route. This time I took Henry to 29th. It took me 42.
As they say, the show must go on. Setup is nearly done for the two-day music festival Made in America. With 676 in jeopardy and other roads blocked off, thinking ahead is a must if you're headed to the area. Can you imagine Made in America, a major concert tomorrow here for the next 2 days, and you got all this?
I mean, every year with Made in America, everything's shut down, but then plus you got the flooding going on. It's going to be pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy, a major headache for drivers who are coming down here to Center City, who are coming to the concert. You're looking at the work as it continues. A target time of about midnight. That's what they wanted, to get all of this water up. It doesn't look like they will hit that, but of course they are making headway. They are making progress. All sorts of heavy equipment. You can just take a look at this large hose that's right here. Just part of the process to get all of this water out of here.
And Jim, today was the day to really assess the damage, and I'll tell you, there is a lot of it. Look at Main Street here, still caked with mud just by Schurz Lane. The street is covered, the sidewalk is covered with that deep, thick mud. Over here, look at the high water mark. I set up a tape measure, just this spot alone, just shy of 7 feet of water here. A lot of these places have seen flooding before, but they tell me they've never seen anything like what they've seen this week. The Schuylkill is back in its place, but the inches of thick mud and silt will take more than a garden hose to wash away.
Probably a storm that's once in 100 years. Yeah. Let's hope and pray that's what it is.
Chris has been here now 3 days, helping his family at their pizza shop at Schurz Lane, wheeling away kitchen equipment and still calculating the loss.
It's undeturnable right now. I mean, all the food, all the perishables, all that stuff is already gone. All your beverages.
Yeah.
So all that soda tax money that we paid once, we're going to pay dearly over again. Yeah. But what are you going to do?
Sometimes they get lucky, it's not as bad.
Larry has seen his share of floods along Main Street, more than he'd like to count.
10 feet of water, the whole downstairs is flooded up, full of mud and debris.
The trash is piling up, from TVs to furniture.
You'll find fish and snakes crawling after it.
And decks washed away. At the former Mad River Bar, it was almost apocalyptic.
I had never seen the water come past Schurz Lane. And so I thought, in a sense, that we would be okay.
Call it bad timing for the owner of Kismet.
We just moved here 3 months ago.
He was there as the water took over his store. Tonight, he and his team worked to take it back.
Mopping, sweeping, mopping again.
Hoping to reopen Tuesday. A block away, the timetable is anyone's guess.
Probably within a month. We're going to say a month, 30 days before we get back open. There's a lot to be done.
Philadelphia, as we know, has seen some major flooding in the last few years. And according to climate experts, the frequency is likely to just get worse, more frequent. Investigative reporter Claudia Vargas is live in Manayunk once again. She was there all day yesterday. She spoke with experts today on what residents should expect and how the city is preparing.
Yeah, Jim, we keep hearing from so many people that they've never seen flooding like this. And well, that's because it's true. Today we spoke with the city's floodplain manager who said the last time the Schuylkill River flooded this bad was in the 1800s. But he doesn't think it's going to be so long of a period of time until we see the next hit.
The residents on River Road in Roxborough keep sheds, even a tiki bar, right on the water. But the remnants of Ida destroyed most of that.
Shed picked up and floated down the river with 3 kayaks in it.
Zane Cleveland has been living here for nearly 2 decades. And as we are almost tired of saying, he says it's never been this bad.
I suppose I thought it was a possibility, but it wasn't going to happen to me.
Well, just last year, it happened to the Eastwick neighborhood. According to the nonprofit group Climate Central, Philly has a nearly 50% chance of getting 4-foot floods once a year until 2030. The likelihood increases the next decade. By 2050, it's almost guaranteed that such floods will happen annually. Last year, Eastwick was hit with a 4-foot flood. This year, it was other parts of the city, according to the city's floodplain manager, Joshua Leipert.
There were areas that did exceed 4 feet, areas along River Road, which is in the far northwest of Philadelphia, above Manayunk.
Leipert says flooding is the biggest threat to Philly.
But with climate change, it is compounding and increasing the probability of larger events occurring and even more localized events.
He says the city does an annual severe weather plan and works closely with FEMA.
We have the Ready Philadelphia program to give warnings and alerts to residents that are in harm's way of weather events specifically.
The city plans to use data from this week's storm damage to prepare for future events. Officials also hope to send that information to the state and federal government in hopes of getting more funding.
To help our residents rebuild, as well as the city and other infrastructure to be rebuilt and be mitigated for future events.
And while neighbors and businesses focus on the cleanup, leaders are looking ahead.
Yeah, they want to prevent the next big storm from causing even more devastation. NBC 10's Lauren Make joins us now from the NBC 10 newsroom with a look at where help could come from and what that prevention could look like. Lauren, what can you tell us?
Well, Rosemary, there are discussions going on right now about how to make improvements to local bridges and roads here. And this is coming as the country could be on the verge of making a big investment in infrastructure.
If you don't have to be on the roads, don't be.
The flooding stopped traffic on the Vine Street Expressway, engulfed parts of Manayunk, and leaves cleanup and questions about how to avoid the same thing next time.
Are there things that can be done to prevent this kind of impact?
Yes. And there's been a lot of advances in my field in water resources engineering in our ability to model or to create simulations of these types of floods.
Franco Montalto is a professor in the Civil, Architectural, and Environmental Engineering Department at Drexel University. He says the options to protect certain areas from flooding include moving properties to higher ground, increasing the capacity of pipes so water flows through to a river or stream, and having a designated place that can safely flood.
You have a park that is usually a recreational asset, but is now contoured in a certain way that it fills up with water when it rains. Or can you have a roadway, that can actually sort of deflect a wave away from people's basements? Yes, it impedes traffic for a period of time, but it prevents property loss and loss of life.
Now the flooding cleanup in the Philadelphia region and discussions about what projects to take on coming as lawmakers in Washington work on a massive infrastructure bill.
Are there things in that bill that could help to prevent the kinds of flooding we saw here in Philadelphia from happening again?
There's certainly provisions that speak to basic infrastructure.
Senator Bob Casey, a Democrat supporting the bill that passed the Senate, says it aims to meet the threat of climate change before it's too late.
I think the terrible example of the flooding and in some parts of the country it's the opposite, it's wildfires. That terrible reality, I think, unfortunately has become the reminder or the forecaster of what's ahead of us if we don't tackle climate change.
Where money from the anticipated $550 billion bill goes could depend on what local governments say they need to help prevent weather events from turning into a flood of problems.